Congratulations to the 2024 St. Louis Battlehawks for making their first ever franchise postseason berth this year in the UFL. That's right, the Battlehawks have officially clinched a playoff spot. Now, while this was one that was kind of obvious a couple weeks ago, a bit of a scare heading into this game against the Defenders, but they got the W, and because of that, they have officially clinched their postseason berth. Now, looking at this team, the important thing to note is that they still have a shot to get the 1 seed. Yes, the 1 seed is still up for grabs as the Brahmas are right next to them at 6-2, and there is a very high shot that their Week 10 matchup will be for the division or conference title. Now, yes, the Brahmas will have to get past the Birmingham Stallions, but again, if both these teams meet at 7-2, that Week 10 game is going to be a huge deal. Now, as for the Battlehawks' 2 losses, their 2 losses really aren't that bad. They're to the Birmingham Stallions at Protective Stadium, and now while there was a lot of mistakes by both teams, A.J. McCarron played a pretty off game against Birmingham, and he ended up getting hurt at the end of it, and all in all, they lost that game. And then Week 1, of course, they were outplayed by Michigan the entire game, got lucky break on a penalty at the very end, and then even with that lucky break that gave them a touchdown, they still ended up losing because they allowed for the Panthers to go downfield and kick a 64-yard field goal to lose their Week 1 game. But aside from those 2 losses, they are undefeated. They have not lost a single conference game, which includes sweeping the Defenders, and currently having beaten both San Antonio and Arlington 1 time. Now, looking at this team, come on, it's McCarron and Hakeem Butler. Now, while there are some gripes about A.J. McCarron on his very, very safe play, he is still very efficient. He is 2nd in passing yards, 3rd in completion percentage, 6th in yards per pass, 1st in passing TDs, tied for 5th in INTs, and 4th in passer rating. Hakeem Butler's been a monster. He is 1st in receiving yards, 1st in yards after catch, 6th in yards per reception while being tied for 3rd in receptions. It's a very good stat. And tied for 1st in receiving TDs. Now, this team has had multiple running backs, whether it be like Jacob Sailors, Wayne Gallman, or even other guys, Mateo Durant. There have been injuries, there have been bad play, there's been inconsistencies. But overall, the running back room has just kind of been okay. Now, some games they've been really good, especially early on in the season. They had multiple 100-yard performances. In recent weeks, it's kind of died down a little bit. It's still one of the better rushing attacks in the league. But when you have a guy like Hakeem Butler, and again, you have other guys who are dealing with injuries at different points in the season, but guys like Marcel Aitman, Darius Shepard, and Ja'Cour Pearson are still on this roster. This receiving core is loaded, and it's a huge reason why this offense is so good. But what about their defensive special teams? Now, their kicking is great. Schmeidt has been very solid, aside from like a couple misses here and there. But when you look at everything, it's mainly the fact that this defense is very underrated. Ever since they got Mike Rose back, they've been really loaded. 138 points allowed is like tied for 3rd, but their yards allowed are very, very good at under 250. They still lead the league in kick and punt return average, and they're tied with the Stallions for best turnover differential. When you're winning stats like these, you're able to legitimately have a shot at winning any game you're in. And that's why this team is a very, very, very big threat in the playoffs, especially if they get the 1 seed in their conference. They could have back-to-back home games, as the championship game for the UFL is in St. Louis. So that would be insane if that ends up happening. Again, congratulations to the St. Louis Battlehawks for clinching their first ever playoff berth.
Playoffs calling. I can't talk right now. I gotta go.